Hey everyone, welcome to West Coast Wednesdays. My name is Justin Anchetta with Soul Graffiti Studios and SF Garnish Music Production. We're here every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Please sign up for one of our courses. We have a bunch of free resources for you, such as our Tuesday Beer and Beats from 6 to 9 p.m. And today we have a special guest. I'm going to introduce you to him in just a moment. But for now, we're doing West Coast Wednesdays every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Please give yourself a warm round of applause and know that if you are interested in sound design, digital audio workstations, DJing, mixing and mastering, you can contact us. We have a bunch of free consultations and we're here for you. Welcome, Ben Wiley. He's our DJ and Ableton teacher extraordinaire at Soul Graffiti Studios and SF Garnish. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Justin.
Cool. It's been a while. Me trying to get you on the show, and we have you. So grateful to have you here and pick your brain. Today, we're going to be talking about DJing, different gear, hardware, software, and just tips of building sets and track choices. Just kind of picking your brain around your professional opinion about everything.
All right.
Yeah. So one big question is, a lot of people come in, they're like, I want to be a DJ. What gear should I buy? And is there something that you use, or like maybe there's a beginner thing and then once you get good at it, you upgrade or something?
Yes. A lot of this music stuff is a big financial obligation. So I definitely recommend for people to test the waters out, Pioneer for both Rekordbox and Serato has a really nice DJ controller. I do recommend for people to start out with the digital thing. It's easily approachable. Turntables are super expensive. So, if you're going to try something out for 6 months and kind of figure out that this might not be for you, I think it's a lot easier obligation to spend $200 on something and then, let it go, as opposed to thousands of dollars on some nice gear. So, Pioneer has some really good controllers. I believe the one for Rekordbox is the CDJ 400 or something. Mm-hmm. Just a little controller, super basic. I hadn't played with them much before we got them for Garnish at the studio. And I was super surprised moving from, I do have a pretty nice piece of gear. I have the Pioneer SZ2, which is a very large digital controller. And most of the things that I have on that controller, I pretty much had all of the same stuff on this tiny little $200 controller. So they did a really good job with both the 400 for Rekordbox, and I think it's the S3, which is the exact same model. It's just for Serato. So yeah, I would go with buying the cheaper thing first. Absolutely.
Nice. Yeah.
Figure out what bells and whistles, you want on your next bigger controller.
Nice. Yeah. So like the Pioneer DJ, like the DDJ SB2 or above, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just pretty basic. I think they're like $189, $200.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's great about this kind of intro level DJ gear is that it has all the bells and whistles that you can learn on. And then if you really enjoy yourself, you can upgrade, sell that off, for maybe $30, $50 cheaper and not really have to go out of pocket, by having multiple gear. That's great, man. Yeah. It's a great advice, I think, just to not bite off too much. A lot of people just jump in pretty high with gear, but if you have the money and want to go there, I guess there's nothing really stopping you.
Well, there's a steeper learning curve to, the higher end gear.
That's true.
The more buttons that are on a device, honestly, if you're just learning something, I find that is a huge distraction. I'm very much of the keep it simple, especially when first starting out. Totally.
I was just actually teaching somebody on Push 2, and he's a guitar student, and he wants to learn kind of DJing gear, and I started on Push 2. And I essentially turned off, I didn't plug it in so he couldn't see all the colors and buttons.
Right.
Because he wants to press them more.
Of course.
And, a 12-year-old. So I turned that off and I limited him to just specific functions that I told him about. And it actually seemed to work. And it's kind of like staying in box, learning, mastering this, and then moving somewhere else. I really like that technique.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah, and even I think the Pioneer DDJ SB2, you can even do, I think, 4 decks kind of digitally in the digital realm, right? Set that up even though there's only 2 in front of you.
Right. A lot of them have the buttons to switch between like deck 1 and 3 over here and then 2 and 4 over here.
Yeah.
As if 2 decks weren't enough to begin with.
Yeah. That's more of an advanced technique anyway, too, probably.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Like, even with my bigger controller, I'm usually only using 2 channels. That's plenty.
Yeah.
Maybe a third if I want to have like something for scratching ready to go, so I can still stay on both decks and switch one over and then have something ready to scratch.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool, man. And then I guess stylistically, obviously everybody has their own style that they want to go for, like, house music, or maybe it's a back chill styles of DJing. Have you had any trouble teaching a class where somebody has really contrasting styles, or is the techniques, similar enough?
I find that the basics of teaching somebody to DJ, regardless of the genre, it doesn't matter. The concepts are all the same. DJing is about matching BPMs, that's like the number one thing. So as long as you're playing music that is roughly around the same BPM, it doesn't matter what genre it is. Although I always tell people, don't ever try to DJ freeform jazz, because you're going to have a bad time with that.
Yeah, things to a BPM, right? Like, mapped out.
4/4.
Yeah.
Time signature.
That's helpful.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't try too much craziness. I guess. Right. Have you ever tried to kind of beat sync a free form jazz and put that into a 4/4 form?
Maybe like cut something into a loop, so you can hear a definitive loop in it.
Yeah.
And then maybe trying to layer that over it. But like, if you get 2 beats, like drums specifically, that are too different from each other, it starts to sound like what we call a train wreck, literally.
Loses groove. So or maybe worse.
Yeah, but like let's say if I'm just concentrating on something more melodic elements and like not something that's more rhythmic, maybe I have something more rhythmic playing on this beat over here, and then something more melodic, like I can sometimes find a way to make them work together. Mm-hmm. Or if something is in an odd time signature, sometimes you can find a way to get it to still blend in well,
Nice. Yeah, I actually really love like having a 4/4 form and then being able to have some type of 7 looping over it. So every 7 measures or something, it hits a 1 together finally.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's cool.
I might not do that with something in 7s, but like 6s, 7s get complicated. They can
kind of be the hodgepodge train wreck possibility. Watch out for 7s. Awesome. So like in regard to building your sets, you have any tips on track choice and like how you build in your set, how you start and end?
Yeah, I've got a lot of feedback on that actually. I mean, something I tell my students, I personally play a lot of different kind of music. So if I'm getting booked, I need to know which side of me you're booking. Are you booking the dark and dirty bass music, DJ B. Wiley, or are you booking the super chill, groovy, funk and house kind of B. Wiley? So that's first step. What kind of vibe? Also, like, where is it? Am I playing in a club or am I playing in a restaurant? So, if I need to keep it PG, I can do that. I don't want to offend anybody. But overall, like I need to know what's going to be the vibe of the event, the set. So like, I'll even go so far as to be like, who am I playing with? What kind of music do they play? Go into the venue, check out the vibe of the place, I don't know how many times I've walked into a club somebody booked me for, and I've actually gotten in trouble because I didn't own any Bay Area hip hop. And regardless of what you're booked, sometimes they're just like, nah, you got to play that, So as far as devising the set itself, I kind of look at my sets in a little bit more of a progressive way. Not usually, well, I'm usually booked for longer sets, like 2-3 hours, which is really fun because I can start one place and I can end up someplace like maybe not completely different, but I can switch up my BPMs quite a bit. So just keeping it simple, I will start off slower and then, like let's say I'll start off with like slow, like chill trap or R&B or, like hip hop. And I will always mix and things will always be beat matched, but we might be starting at like 60 or 70 BPM and 2 hours later, we're going to be at like 128, playing
almost
house.
Doubling. Yeah,
exactly. Well, not even doubling. I'm just slowly speeding it up throughout all my mixes so I can never not mix and just keep bumping up the tempo. So it's like this natural speeding up.
Nice. Cool. And this kind of came out, this question here, just from a recent student that signed up that you'll probably meet in the very near future. I won't name any names at the moment because I didn't get any word on that. But he sent a track to get some feedback on before coming to class because I told him that I would do that. And he sent a SoundCloud and I just went through it this morning and kind of listened in. And it's like an hour and 31 minutes. And he's got people commenting on it. He's got like people actually interested in his house music. And it's a genre that I'm not that deep into, but I can appreciate it. And I just listened into the styles that he's kind of blended together. And I was like, wow, this is actually pretty good. I was specifically trying to find the transition points because I feel like that's kind of like where his skill set, because he wanted feedback on like, how can I improve? So I was listening for the transitions and they were really smooth. Like, I don't think that he changed tempo at all, but maybe that's because it's house music and it's like,
yeah.
So, not too much judgment there. But I was wondering, like, how do you, when you listen to something, this is kind of a two-part question, is like, how do you know how much the DJ is doing versus just playing someone else's track? Or how much do you personally want to do? Does it change? Does it fluctuate? Like sometimes you just play a track as is, or sometimes you specifically add, like, what do you add?
Well, from what I've heard in the past, using effects and everything like that is something that I would do to like add my own personal flair to it, but you can overdo it and kind of like kill the vibe, by pulling your filter around too much or using too much echo or whatever. And they've kind of always said, if you can tell the DJ is using effects, then they're using them too much, so so much of music is about, being really smooth with things, and everything is like very minimal, but just to like get the point across. Often I won't use a ton of effects because these tracks stand out so much on their own. I don't want to deviate from that too much, and as far as mixing, it's kind of like taking parts of songs and like making them both accentuate each other, which is really fun to do.
Totally.
I won't go overboard with effects usually,
So it's mostly like kind of picking out the song and finding out which song do you match the other tempo, and then where do you ramp it up to kind of slowly build up your sound maybe, or? Yeah.
I mean, like as far as like building up energy and stuff, I'm not going to go from like a super chill deep house track into like, a bass house banger. But there are tracks in the middle to where we can link the two, it's a slow building of energy.
Yeah.
And not just very abrupt.
Nice. So it's really kind of like not only training your hand to like do the knobs as you want them, but your ear, it sounds like you're really training your ear and your workflow of like what do I actually want to connect these to?
Yeah, I feel like it's 90% your ear, because like it's not just, yeah, I listen to a bunch of music and I'm like, okay, I really enjoy this music right here. I'd love to throw it in a DJ set. But then you start to hear this and you're like, I know another track that I think that these two will line up. Then we get into like harmonic mixing, which is really nice. If you want things to be harmonically pleasing as far as your mixes go, then we have another set of data on the screen to look at. This is the Camelot Wheel, which is, I'm surely you're familiar with the circle of fifths.
Mm-hmm.
The Camelot Wheel is the circle of fifths. It's just given a numeric number to help you know what keys will mix better together instead of memorizing, a fifth away from C is G,
Mm-hmm.
C isn't like 1, but 1 to 2 would be C to G. So you would know that those are good mixes.
Totally. It's like your root, right, to the fifth, and it's like a 1-5 or something.
Mm-hmm. So
Nice.
there's like the different combinations of movement through like the Camelot Wheel. So, yes, you've got to match the tempos, but then you got to like keep a steady vibe of the music. And then like you want to, make sure your mixes are harmonically pleasing too.
Yeah.
Then you throw EQ and levels and gain and all that stuff on top of it as well.
Totally. And like, how much do you want to like compress and limit stuff? Do you do that as well?
I wouldn't, no, there's not usually those functions on a mixer.
Okay.
You do, however, need to keep your eye on your volume levels because we don't want to redline and clip.
Totally.
So good DJs keep a really good eye on those meters.
Totally. So it doesn't crack any speakers or damage anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Nice. So really, actually, I was going to ask a bunch of questions around effects and filtering, the do's and don'ts of effects. And it sounds like you kind of covered that actually, which is really cool. Are there any specific, like, don't do this with effects? I mean, I think you named one, which was like, if people know that you're doing effects, you've probably done too much.
Well, that's just something like I've heard throughout, the years of doing it. Yeah, it's kind of obvious when I do a filter sweep and then, hit my echo on top of that. It's, but if I do it too much, people get sick of it and they're just like, oh, he's doing that thing again. He does it like every mix. You know what I mean? It's going to like burn people out. So all things in moderation.
Yeah. That's cool. Probably styles of music might like require more or less effects too. Maybe which venue you're in.
Honestly, genre-wise, there's like shorter or longer mixes. Like if I'm working with dubstep or like trap, or sometimes hip hop, because we have a lot of lyrics involved, and we never really want two lyrics going over each other because very rarely do they work well together. My mixes are a lot quicker when I'm dealing with those genres as opposed to something like, house or trance or techno, where like I could ride out a mix for like a minute and a half sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mixing stuff together. That's cool. Nice. Let's see here. Some other questions I might have for you. So you did talk about pitch and identifying the dissonance or clashing. And what do you call it instead of circle of fifths?
Camelot Wheel.
Camelot Wheel. So that's like a DJ term.
Yeah. So this was, I forget the guy that initially made this, but there's a company called Mixed and Key. No, I'm not trying to push their products, but I do stand by them because I use it so much. It's a third-party program that I can analyze my music, and it will tell me the key to these tunes. Typically Serato and Rekordbox do analyze your music, but Mixed and Key is specifically made just to do this.
So it's more accurate maybe?
It is. Yeah. And after plugging in my entire library, I noticed at least 50% of my track keys changing after I rescanned them with Mixed and Key. And my mixes started sounding a lot better after it. I'm a fan. it works for me. I've seen instant results. So
Very cool. So that's called Mixed in Key, you said?
yes.
Awesome. So that's a software that you recommend.
Yeah.
Whether you're even using Rekordbox or Serato, having Mixed in Key will just be more accurate.
Yes.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I guess I learned about Rekordbox pretty recently in the past, a couple of years myself. Haven't had really any experience with that. I've just used Serato. Are there any benefits to Rekordbox, you think, versus Serato?
Well, I'm a Serato guy, and I think it's because Serato was first before Rekordbox. So I want to say I've been using Serato since 2007, maybe 2008. So we were using the time-coded vinyl back then. And I've kind of always been interested in like hip hop and scratching too. So from what I've seen, Serato is a lot more like tangible and friendly with that, where Rekordbox, well, if you walk into any club worldwide pretty much, the gear that you're going to be working on and looking at is most likely going to be Rekordbox format. So all these like CDJs and like higher end pieces of gear that you work with, those are all running off of the Rekordbox software. So
nice. So maybe because it's newer, they're maybe kind of more up on the times of changing technologies.
Yeah. Also, I've not really seen Serato have any standalone gear. What I mean by that is I can't walk in with a thumb drive with all my music on it, plug it right into something with Serato, and it's just ready to roll. That is the huge perk of walking into a club and having this other nice gear for Rekordbox. I can walk in with a thumb drive, plug it in, and I'm ready to roll, as long as I have done all the work in the Rekordbox software.
Nice. Very cool, man. Great. So, I mean, in all honesty, I want to say that DJing is a little bit out of my forte of expertise. I'm more of like Ableton and musician. So I'm kind of leaning into like you and your skill set. And what's kind of cool is like my questions are coming from somebody that's like maybe getting into it. And that's really what we're trying to support here at Garnish Music, is like people that are dipping their toe or getting more advanced. I think this guy coming up here actually sounds like he actually is pretty far along on the DJing, way past where I'm at, I think, actually. And he's coming in to learn from you. So I'm stoked. I wish he had some questions for you on the show as well.
I'm sure he will once I meet him in class. I hope that he doesn't know too much, so that, I'll be like, well, we got to keep this 101 for everybody else, though.
Yeah.
It's an intro class.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, finding that balance. This is kind of one, I guess, just in regard to like music programming. I know Ableton just has all these functionalities and it can get pretty overwhelming. From what I've understood about like Pioneer DJ, DDJ SP2, and moving up from there, that I kind of like how it's plug and play and there's some limited features to it. So it's like, there's 2 decks and here's how you do your hot cues and your manual loops and your samplers are here. I felt like both myself and you met Damien at the studio, right?
Yep.
It's like we've been using Ableton for so long, and like both of us, we really appreciated sitting down with the Pioneer DDJ SP2 and like mixing music, and all of a sudden, like essentially we could, have an hour of music that we enjoy being mixed together. In regard to that, we did talk about the importance of EQ, matching tempos and keys, decibel level. You're making sure that we're not peaking at all. So I think the effects chains, I only see 3 features up on the top here, and they're often like, one's a delay, one's a reverb, and one's like this, like probably phaser or something like that. Which one do you use the most?
Echo and filter.
Yeah.
Occasionally for an intro or an outro of my set, I might use a little bit of reverb. But like I said, I don't really get super crazy with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I try to keep it minimal. I have dug through a lot of the internal effects that are already in your Serato program, because that's the nice thing about the Serato controllers. Even these starter ones, you have the ability to have 3 effects on each deck, which is something that I've always had a problem with Rekordbox. They have this master effect section to where you have to twist a knob to change which deck it's going to, or out your master. And I will always forget to switch that back over. But if I can just press a button on each side to toggle on and off my effects per deck, that just feels so much more musical. You know what I mean?
Totally. Simplifies things. And like, yeah, I like the idea of like getting off the computer and more onto a hardware device. It kind of creates it more like an instrument, I would say.
Yes.
In that aspect.
I mean, that's what they were aiming for with the push, is for you to be able to do everything directly on this device and not be clicking around in a computer, because that's not very musical.
Totally. And in regard to DJing, are you bringing your push along to your DJing set at all?
No, I haven't really done a lot of DJing with Ableton. I think in moments of like me first coming out here to California, I didn't bring my decks with me straight off. So I was looking for something to DJ with, and Serato was there. So I started diving into it, and I noticed that it took a little bit of work to make sure all your tracks are on the grid, so they're going to be syncable. Also, because I'd come up like playing on turntables and everything, having everything synced felt like cheating. And I couldn't get over that,
Mm-hmm.
kind of hating on it a little bit.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, definitely. Even me just getting into DJing in general, I feel like I've always kind of like, that's not real music. But I feel like I've actually came around, because like the skill set of like, it's similar to me loving building a studio and being a sound engineer. It's like, it wasn't actually my first love, but I've learned to love it. And I think I've kind of learned to appreciate DJs as musicians, because I'm also finding out the deeper you go into music, it's more about your listening and less about like how fast you can move your finger necessarily. Yep. So, and that's really essentially going back to this kid I was just, playing around with today in a lesson, off the guitar. And while he was just trying to DJ, he had 2 functions, right? Because I limited him down. He had fade to gray and beat masher, and then just changing from different parts of the song. And he was killing it, man. Like he had phrasing going on. He would wait 4 bars or 8 bars. He was really kind of feeling that. And then he even like ended the song with like fading out with fade to gray. And it's like, I was like that. I was really kind of giving him that congratulations of like, you're using your ear now, while you're playing guitar, not as much.
Right.
Cause he was too busy being distracted by his fingers and all that. He was losing time.
Right.
Yeah. So I just really appreciated like seeing that literally today. I was like, wow, this is actually something that I think he actually appreciates more, and he's better at, and he's using it as an instrument, and his ears are perking up, and that's really what we're trying to do, is like inspire people to have purpose and like stay with it, and not get distracted. There's so many ways to get distracted in life. Oh my God.
Flow state is pretty hard. And, when you can get into it, like, yeah, whatever you need to do to like get into flow state more often, like, yes, if that means limiting yourself on the options that you have, I mean, like if you were writing a song and you had access to every instrument ever created, like, wouldn't that kind of make things more complicated?
Absolutely.
It'd be cool, but it's like sound design. So much of it is just sitting here tweaking knobs to hopefully make something that sounds cool,
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, yes, there is something to be said about limiting what you can do with. And honestly, like I said, with these starting controllers that we've looked at, they are not limiting. There's almost one too many features on them.
Yeah, totally. Like deck 3 and 4. It's like,
right. Well, like, honestly, like, depending on which one you get, like, there's a lot of like effects within those pads because there's different modes for each of those pads. It's not just about the hotkeys, but there's like different like weird effect stuff in there as well as your effects up top.
I actually noticed something really cool about the Pioneer DDJ SB2 because like a more professional friend DJ came over here and we were kind of just talking shop. We were jamming together, and we had the Push 2 and then the DDJ SB2 out, and he's more experienced and has like probably the same system that you have. It's the larger. Is it the 4000 or something?
I've got the Pioneer SZ2. I don't think they make it anymore.
Okay. Well, he had like a larger version of the Pioneer DJ set that I have. And
I think it's the 1000.
Yeah, there you go, the 1000. Yeah. And I think the only difference was, I mean, it was bigger, and I think his decks were a little bit more like robust and, you know, more just more palpable, you know, of like analog gear, kind of replicating that. But he was like, yeah, the one thing that I really don't like about the DDJ SB2 is that my fades, when I want to do a crossfade that's like this or a crossfade that's like this, I have to go into my computer and then do a drop down and then click on it. And it's like something that actually for two techniques, right? It's like you do a crossfade, you know, between songs, or you're doing it to like do a little flick of something. You want to be able to jump between those without touching your computer at all.
Right.
And I was like, right in that moment, I was like, oh man, that's the difference between these upgrades. It's like, it's just more right in your face, no computer. But I did find a workaround actually. So as much as I just kind of dissed the DDJ SB2, they have shortcut codes on the keyboard, on the computer keyboard. So just as long as we know those shortcut codes, that $200 device, actually, I can go, I forget which one it was, but I just pressed like K, and that would switch between those specific functions. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have to upgrade anymore. I'm just going to learn this.
Right. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And again, you know, I do have some curve control on my controller here.
Yeah. Yeah. Being able to switch. I mean, I think you only have the option of like 3 or 4, and probably yours might have more options than that.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of like another cool thing around, you know, learning these kind of devices fully and then moving on. It's like, there's so much right here, you know?
Right.
Same thing with like guitar. It's like, why buy a $2,000 guitar when you can play a $200 guitar and master it and then get the big one?
Right.
Yeah. And the irony is like all the, like some pros actually purposely go to pawn shops and buy like the really crappy gear and then try and make something cool out of it.
I've had a Yamaha Pacifica here for I 20 years now.
Yeah.
You know, and it does fine because it's more about what I plug it into rather than it itself.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. What types of amps and modules you're using.
Right. And I mean, with something like, you know, guitar rig, you know, like the possibilities are endless there. Like I haven't even owned a guitar amp for, I don't know, like 15 years or so because of something like guitar rig, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I actually just went back after like 10 years of not having a guitar amp. I finally got a Mesa Boogie after I played a show at the Center for the Arts over here. And I played a lead through my rig, which honestly I didn't have really good tones on, to be honest. And then my friend had like a Fender tube amp, and then he ripped a solo, and it's like the contrast. I was like, oh man, I got to invest in my Mesa Boogie tube amp.
Right.
Yeah, I got it again. I like all the crossover though. Like you have guitars over there, you know, Ableton, and you're DJing. One thing, I didn't even talk to you about this for the show, but I'm wondering if we could play a snippet of you DJing from something online that I just found, and then just talk about that snippet. And I honestly haven't plan this out, so I'm not sure what the snippet will be yet. Are you open to this little like rolling the dice?
Let's do it.
All right, let's make this interesting, man. Okay, we're gonna play this game with Ben Wiley. Name that show. So Ben, you're gonna have to name that show.
Oh, great.
Okay, here goes. I just kind of brought it to a new location.
We need to hear this drop. Did you say this is based off of a video?
It's based off of video.
Well, there are very few of those out there. So.
Okay, so based off that, you might actually already know.
Sounds familiar.
I went to the middle of the show.
Could you give me one more drop point?
Yeah, sure. Here, I will go back a little bit more here. I like the low end here. I have some pretty cheap headphones, but it's coming through nicely.
I think I know.
Cool. I like the visuals in the show as well, dude. It looked pretty good.
Was this the set I did with Pyramid?
It is the set that you did with Pyramid. All right. This is November 5th, 2020.
Yeah, we actually did that live in October of that year.
Oh, nice. So kind of a pre.
Yeah. I think it took them a while to put it out. But yeah, so what was actually so cool about that set in general was I basically reached out to a bunch of alumni that I had met through Pyramid, and I asked them for unreleased music.
Oh, cool. So it was actually from the students.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's a great idea, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. With that said, I know that we had this conversation just before the new year around SF Garnish, and you were on the call, Kyle was on the call, and just I got really inspired after that conversation of just like how we can connect the community together, and like how can we create more of a network, not only for the school, but also for the community that's there, the teachers and the students. Mm-hmm. I think that like that combination of people making tracks and then DJs working on those tracks and manipulating those is such a great idea. It's like maybe even having like an Ableton class create, like maybe it might be like an advanced Ableton class, create a track, and then the DJ class following it,
right,
manipulates that track or something. And then maybe that's released or something.
Well, I'll be honest, as far as like, tying together our community, you've already done a really good job with Beers and Beats, because the feedback and the amount of stoke that is coming from the people that attend those events every week is huge.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, you should get down here for some more of them. I realize we're all busy and all, but yeah.
Man, I know.
Everybody loves Beers and Beats.
Yeah.
And there's so much talent going through there. Yeah, it would be awesome to like, I don't know if we're talking about a record label. I don't know if we're talking about, it could be so many things. Maybe it could just be, finish a tune if you want, share the stems, and everybody grabs it and goes off and does remixes, and then like put together a compilation of that.
Totally. Yeah. So really like even a Beer and Beats album could come out, you know, like the best of 2021 or 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then I could do like a DJ mix version of it or something.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. I was really blown away by the people coming through, and like not only were they using audio, but they already had like video to share, and working on scoring from
Right.
you know where they went from. Pretty rad. Awesome. I know I'm getting a little bit off subject here from DJing, but I'm super inspired, you know, by really how DJing, you know, has revolutionized music, an aspect of, you know, musicians are still creating tracks, and then they're able to be manipulated or warped or changed to just effectively have the most optimum sound for that large venue, and not having to worry about having a sound engineer.
Right.
Because the DJ is actually kind of focused just on that, and it's already delivered from the studio, kind of.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been kind of missing out on the beer and beats, because being online for me, it's not as good, and so
kind of a tease, isn't it?
it's a tease. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great that you and Kyle and Alex have been so consistent showing up there as holding it down as teachers there. Yeah, and I just wanted to give props to all the people at Beer and Beats. It's a free event every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Soul Graffiti Studios. We did take this previous week off, and it's kind of been on and off due to the different Omicron virus and COVID. But with that said, we're hopeful of being really consistent every Tuesday. We've been consistent online or in person for years now, which is really also a pretty incredible feat to just continue something online for so long. Going back to DJing again, do you aspire to bring in Ableton and the push to your DJ set, or is that something that you want to kind of keep for the studio?
I feel if I was producing enough of my own music, and I would want to do more than just press play on my own track and have it play through, then yes, I would definitely want to bring in Ableton and do a little bit more live DJ set, you know? But if I'm just playing a bunch of other people's music, I do prefer the median of the, you know, the DJ controller or the turntables or whatever. Yeah, I could see that being a thing that I get into more in the future, but I think I would really only focus on it if it were my productions. And, you know, it's taken me years to try to build up enough of a catalog that is cohesive enough to play an hour's worth of it, you know, in one sitting. So still working on that, you know, eventually though.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's always a cool thing to kind of have a friends or community, is like to kind of even like build a catalog together, right? And like build that up. I really love that like genre bending thing of like, you know, taking that jazz element and then putting a big beat behind it.
Right.
Making something out of it. I was kind of hearing that with some of the melodies behind your set that you did in the previous, I guess that was 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah, I think it was 2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
A
like
year and a half ago.
Year and a half. Cool. That's great, man. Well, I just want to let people know who we're talking to once again, which is Ben Wiley. He is teaching DJing and Ableton at SF Garnish Music Production and Soul Graffiti Studios. The DJing classes are in person, and the Ableton classes are in person for the current time, and we're hoping that we can keep that going on. We did stop for, I think, about a year and went online. DJing classes kind of paused for quite a bit of time because of the COVID. But it's been really nice to get into 2022 and kind of feel this like rejuvenation of people inspired to reach out and work on their music. And it's been great having you in our community here, Ben. We really appreciate that. Yeah. What is your main instrument? Because I see that we talked guitars a little bit. Is it guitar per se, or?
Honestly, the computer production, sitting in front of a computer. I think I briefly mentioned it earlier. I'm really into sound design. I like to build sounds from scratch. So like the synthesizer, I'm a knob tweaker,
Nice. Have you taught one of our sound design courses yet?
For you, no.
Okay.
I have taught sound design before, though.
We're gonna have to get you on one of those.
Yeah, I've been pushing for that. It's especially for people just getting into this. It can be a intimidating subject, but I love it. I geek out on this stuff all the time.
Awesome.
Maybe if I wasn't such a sound design geek, I would actually finish more music. But
Yeah, it's funny. Alex is kind of in this boat of like, he likes building studios, I think, the best. And now that he's built Soul Graffiti, he's like, what do I want to do? He's like, let's go build another one. I'm like, well, wait, we have a studio. Shouldn't we like make music in it now? But what's kind of cool is he's realizing that's his passion. He likes geeking out on gear and buying it and like setting it up and people appreciating it, which is such a gift, I guess, to the whole community here, really.
Absolutely.
So props to Alex on that build out in the past almost decade that we've been doing. Awesome, man. I really appreciate you taking time here on the West Coast Wednesdays to talk DJing. We went through Record Box and a little bit about Pioneer. Some of the kind of a recap of what you're talking about is starting off in the DDJ SB2 or above with Serato or something simple, and then building up from there. Don't get too complex at first.
No.
And then kind of getting in maybe to the 1,000 or your Pioneer set. What's yours called again?
Mine's called the SZ2, and I believe it is discontinued, but it is essentially the controller version of what you would see if you walk into a club and you're messing with the standard DDJ 1000 and like a Nexus mixer.
Oh, nice. Very cool. Yeah, so it sounds like the Pioneer DDJ 1000 is kind of like, once you've like confirmed you want to be a DJ, you like the gear, and you've like done it for a year, go for it. Yeah.
Just figure out, I mean, unless you have like all this disposable income, and like start out with cheaper stuff. And then if you're really cool and you love DJing and you buy a nicer piece of gear, maybe donate that piece of gear to one of your friends that's also into DJing. Let's spread the love on this stuff. Totally.
Pass it off. Great idea. I just had experience today. I was picking up some gear from my uncle, and he's not really into music, but he lives at a property that this guy has a lot of money and gear, and he took a picture of these two boxes. He's like, yeah, do you want this? And it's like rolling cases that are super nice. I thought they were like up to my waist, and I didn't actually measure because he gave me the measurements. I showed up and it was like to my head.
Oh.
Like 48 inches wide.
Like huge gator case kind of
thing.
Thing?
Like this is like serious gear that like is for amphitheater productions.
Touring. Yeah.
And I couldn't say no, because once I said yes, he's like, you said yes, you got to take them out. So I have this gear at my house. If anyone wants them, I'll give you a super good deal on them. Yeah. Bizarre scenario. I just thought of that though, because like it's like trying to get gear within your means. It's like, this is obviously way out of my means, totally like not what I need right now. And I just liked kind of what you talked about initially, just like buy what's in your means, don't go overboard too much. And also a benefit too at the studio is that you can actually utilize our gear there in the class. It is nice to practice at home, but it's nice to just utilize the stuff in the class. And in on-off hours, if you can kind of meet up with a teacher, you're welcome to utilize the studio on off hours. We're super welcome we want more people there. And another benefit too for people to sign up as the Academy, the 360 full year to 2 year program, is you have access not only to our studio in North Oakland, but every studio worldwide that is the Garnish network. So there's 8 locations worldwide. It's on the website. If you just the drop down menu of which locations, I think they just opened up new ones in like Tokyo and Germany are the newest ones. So that's on my to-do list, is actually checking out other Garnish locations in the couple years to come.
Have you been to the one in LA?
I have not, but did you ever meet Lorenzo? He goes by Lowlight.
Maybe.
He came up here to teach Ableton a while back, but he's from LA, and I just sent his contact to Dave Garnish down there because he's down to teach, and might as well teach and not have to drive so far.
Right.
Yeah. But that's always kind of like the cool thing about this franchising, and I'm hoping that actually not only it works from the business perspective, for us and the teachers, but also for the community surrounding it. It's like, if I tried to create a network worldwide, that would be so hard. But because it's already half established and we are just one piece of the puzzle, it's like we can manage it over here.
Right.
Yeah. So super stoked on that, and super stoked on your expertise of being a sound design engineer and geeking out on it. Because, that's really the benefit of people coming through our doors now is the avenue you've taken. So stoked on that. Have you met Sam Ward?
Is that the guy who's in New York that records? Correct.
Symphonic music.
Records like operas?
Yeah, symphonic operas. Yes. I remember that was the day that I met you at the studio.
Okay.
And it's so random because he's been in New York for like a year already, and he came by that one night. And but he comes to mind because he is also such a nerd on sound design, and I just love him for that because like he can just talk circles around frequencies and bounce it, recording and bouncing music at 96 kilohertz versus 48 or the 44.1, which is like a CD quality. And I think what he's working on now is nothing below 96 because he's working with the overtones that you can't hear at like 60 to 70 kilohertz frequencies.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm just hoping that someday we can have that happen at our studio where we have listening sessions to these higher quality recordings DJ'd in surround sound, like maybe some Dolby surround sound. So
we should talk about putting an Atmos system in there then.
Atmos Dolby. We actually just had a meeting with I'm forgetting his name right now, but we just had a meeting about that. And we might do a little masterclass. If we have it, I'm going to go down there and take it myself because I want to learn more about is it 7.1.4 surround sound. So you actually have like the speakers surrounding you and the
3D.
Yeah, the subwoofers, and I think even some like 4 from on top of the roof come down. It's crazy.
That's not excessive at all.
Yeah, and Alex is like, yes, more to build. Okay. So just as long as I don't have to pay for it.
A bigger studio.
Yes. Yeah. Oh man. There's a studio down the way that actually I would love to someday help take over.
Is it the one across the street?
No, that's Strings, and that's a dear friend, Joey Lent, and we actually are that door is open to us. We have the key there, and we can teach classes there. We just have to kind of get enough students in the door, which is why we're doing West Coast Wednesdays with you and letting people know what rad teachers we have. They can come through the doors. And if you want to meet Ben Wiley, probably want to email us first, but most likely Beer and Beats, right? 6 to 9. You might even be there. Yeah.
I usually get there a little later, like 9 o'clock.
Oh, okay. For the kind of post hangout.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got another job I'm working. So right when I get off of that, I come straight over to Beer and Beats.
Very cool, man. Yeah. That was great to hang out with you there and geek out on the pushes in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was my first time jamming in Studio B with 2 pushes kind of randomly like that. So
right.
More of that, please.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
We should record some stuff too.
Absolutely.
Do video on that.
I was just about to say, West Coast Wednesdays. So most of these shows, I'm actually on Ableton, doing mixes, or even like recording tracks live and then talking through the process of what I'm doing. And I think a future idea, is that like we could actually do something where you could be DJing, I could be using push, and we can kind of have a few cameras up and put that out there.
Yeah.
at the studio. So super down to do that. I'm not sure how long West Coast Wednesdays will be lasting, because it's just kind of my force of like putting out there in the world. And if you like the show, please like and subscribe, click like and follow it. If you want to learn more about our program, connect with us. If you have questions for Ben Wiley or any other teacher, knock on our door. Like our door is like pretty open policy. We like to have like a heads up first, just in case no one's there. We don't want to waste your time at all. But yeah, man, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to do a little outro here, and then I will say goodbye to you offline. Does that work for you?
That is good.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was Ben Wiley, everyone, from Soul Graffiti Productions, Soul Graffiti Studios, and SF Garnish Music Production. We are a school in North Oakland and the Bay Area. We're the Bay Area branch franchising. And Ben Wiley is one of our esteemed teachers in DJing and Ableton and sound design when we get that course going. If you're interested in our producer program or our academy, please contact us. And our short courses are 18 to 36 hours. So pretty short commitment. People have gotten through our course, our 36-hour course, in a matter of 6 days straight, 6 hours a day. And it's been super fun to have these like summer or winter workshops like that. I've actually sat in on those myself, and it's been super knowledgeable. Once again, we're here Tuesdays, 6 to 9 p.m. for Beer and Beats in person and online. Go to meetups.com and you can sign up for that. And we look forward to seeing you here in the near future. Thank you, Ben, for joining us.
Thank you, Justin.
Take care, man.
Take care, everyone. Be safe.